Hi, Jody Hardesty with Empowered Heart Connections. Thank you for joining me. I would like to talk about feeling powerless. I know most people have felt powerless at one point in their life or another, and there's many reasons that can contribute to the feeling of powerless. Particularly if you are possibly a child who grew up in a home that you had either controlling family members or a lot of chaos in your house. This can lead to a feeling of powerlessness as a child and can contribute to the continuation of that feeling into adulthood. So what does powerlessness look like? Well, it looks different for different people. So sometimes people feel powerless to say no, for example. So maybe they're a people pleaser, or they have a hard time if someone asks them for help saying, I can't do that, or that's not going to work for me. They're continually maybe trying to accommodate or appease someone or other people. They feel powerless to stand up for themselves. They feel powerless to say what their needs are, what their expectations are, what their hopes are. And powerlessness can show up in our society, in our cultures, and obviously in relationships. Sometimes that's what keeps people stuck from having meaningful relationships, is maybe we feel powerless to really say what we need in a relationship. Maybe we feel powerless to say, hey, that doesn't work for me in a relationship. Or maybe we feel obligated to go out with the first person who comes along, or we feel obligated to try to accommodate the person that we're dating, or the people that we're with, or even the friends that we're hanging out with. So powerlessness can show up in many different ways. It can also show up in feeling like we don't have a voice, that we're invisible, that we don't have the free will to say, I'm here, pay attention to me, I need something. And many people experience this. Many people experience this in different ways, and sometimes it can come and go. Sometimes it can show up in a relationship with someone who maybe has a hard time sharing room in the relationship. Often these people don't even realize they're doing it. They're just maybe kind of really big personalities, and they tend to take up all the oxygen in the room, maybe even unintentionally. But this leaves people who have a tendency to feel powerless or invisible feeling a little bit swallowed up by that and find themselves struggling to be visible. So this can impact people in many different ways. It can impact relationships. And as we've talked about in other videos, it can often come out sideways. It can come out as passive aggressive. It can come out as flat-out aggressive. If we're not really able to pinpoint what that experience is of feeling powerless and when it comes up, and also evaluating where it came from. So that can be helpful to start out by evaluating, okay, when was the first time I felt like I didn't really have a voice, or nobody heard me, or nobody really honored my needs or my requests or my feelings? When was the first time? Was that whenever I was a kid? Was that when I was in a bad relationship? When was that experience where I first felt like my voice wasn't heard? And what was that moment like for me? And sometimes you may not be able to establish or pinpoint an exact time or space. It may be a whole kind of general experience, like, for example, in someone's childhood, they just generally felt kind of unheard or invisible, or in a bad relationship, they were maybe impugned or criticized or cut down, and so they kind of got silenced and continued to feel like their power was restricted or taken. So, but doing some soul searching around that process, around when did it first feel, what's my first memory of when that experience of feeling like I didn't have a voice, I felt powerless, I felt like I was not able to impact change or be heard, when did that happen? And if that's not possible, that's okay. Just to think about the most recent experience that you felt like maybe you didn't have a voice, or you couldn't say what you needed, or you couldn't express yourself in the way that you felt like you really were heard. and explore what that looked like. And then the trickiest part is to evaluate a time when you did feel empowered. When you did feel like, wow, someone really made me feel valued, or I said things in a way that I really felt got heard and honored, or I really stood up for myself in a way that worked magnificently. And you feel really successful with that experience. So most of us have some experience like this, even if it's a small experience that you felt empowered or able to really get your needs met, able to be heard and supported and validated. And think about that experience and what that felt like in your body in that moment. What did it feel like when you first felt like you were heard and validated? You felt empowered, you felt alive. Did you feel energized in your body? Did you feel like a weight was lifted? Did you feel light? What was it like in your body? Did you feel rooted to the earth? Did you feel grounded? Just really exploring what that physical sensation was like, and then also what the emotional sensation was like around that. Did it feel exciting? Did it feel fun? Was it scary? What was that emotional sensation that went along with that experience of feeling empowered, feeling able to assert yourself in a way that was effective and got your point across or got your needs met? And again, doesn't have to be huge, doesn't have to be like I, conquered the world, but something even minor, like maybe somebody was, treating you badly at the car dealership and they were trying to kind of bully you into getting the more expensive car you didn't want, and you were able to kind of wrangle that situation in a way that worked better for you. Or any number of situations can be examples of feeling empowered and what that looks like. And then think about something that you struggle with still. So we're first thinking about, again, just to summarize here, we're thinking about a historical reference point of when I first remember feeling powerless. And then secondly, when did I feel empowered? When was the most recent experience that I felt like that I was able to get my needs met? And then thirdly, we're evaluating what is something in the future that I would like to apply that empowered feeling to. So for example, if it is dating, that you're really wanting to be clear with your future dates, or with your current partner for that matter, is what is missing? What are you struggling with? What are some ways in which you are feeling powerless in that situation? And evaluating, if you can, what's stopping you, what's holding you back from really stating your needs or getting your needs met or feeling empowered in that situation. And if you can evaluate that, that's great. Sometimes we get stuck when it comes to evaluating that process. But then think about that experience that you had that we were talking about when you were empowered, when you did feel empowered. And I want you to just imagine that, kind of close your eyes and play that out in your head. Play it out like a video. Play it out from the very beginning to the end, and just really watch that process in your mind about that playing out from the very beginning of when you were struggling in the very first part and you felt like maybe it was a challenging situation, and then you worked your way up to feel empowered to get your needs met, noticing all those sensations that happened during that experience, and really just playing it out like a movie in your mind. And you're going to do that a few times. You're going to just play that out, and you can just notice it like a whole movie series, and you're going to repeat it a few times. And then once you've done that and it feels really solid, that memory feels really solid and kind of a visceral experience, you can really notice it in your bones and your body, and you can feel the emotions around it that came up with that. Then it's time to apply that empowered feeling and that experience to your future situation that you want to shift or that you want to feel empowered to. So example, if that is going out on a date and being really clear with the person that you're dating, whatever that situation is, but really playing that out is, okay, I'm going to go out on this date, and if A happens and I feel uncomfortable, I'm going to use my empowered video in my head, and I'm going to play it out, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to do that, and it's going to feel like this. Obviously, this is different for each scenario and each person, But play that out for whatever situation you're struggling with. If it's a new, if you're looking for a raise, or you're trying to approach your boss about something, or you're trying to try a new position, or whatever it is, you can play that empowered part out like a play and match it to that future experience. So you're kind of extrapolating that old empowered experience and you're blending it with that future experience. So you're really practicing that visualization of imagining yourself in a place where you are successful, you're empowered, and you're able to get your point across in the way that is effective and feels good to you. So really playing that out. And again, remembering that the more you practice it, the more your brain believes it. So we've talked about in the past that what we do what we tell our brains, it believes, right? And what we practice gets hardwired. So if we're practicing our feeling of helplessness or powerlessness, and we're replaying that over and over and over in our head, that gets pretty hardwired in there. So it takes some replaying and rehardwiring of that empowered feeling, that empowered memory, that empowered play that you're acting out in your mind, in your imagination. And we're rewiring the brain. We're telling our brain, hey, you know what? This is what we can believe instead. We can believe that we are capable of being empowered, we're capable of making good choices and moving forward in our lives in a positive way. So we're retraining our brains to really reconnect with our ability to be empowered rather than feeling powerlessness. I hope that's been helpful, and I hope you guys enjoy your journey to practicing your empowered state and enjoy the outcome. Thank you for watching.